Hi everyone. We wanted to give you a quick video that shows you a really neat situation that unfolded at one of our customers recently, where their marketing team wanted a quick glance at a cost per lead calculation. And we were able to achieve this with all out-of-the-box functionality. So we wanted to share this with you because we're pretty confident that many other customers probably have a similar requirement and would like the same kind of information. So of course, first of all, we know that there's plenty of things to think about when you're calculating any kind of return on investment or ROI data. In this specific instance, this customer is looking for a very high level view at that cost per lead, and they're doing a very simple calculation to look at that. And the idea is that they'll review on a regular basis and identify any where that cost per lead is really high, and they'll dig into it further from there. So that's when they would get into those more complex calculations and look deeper at what's causing that high cost. But the intent here is really to create that first initial flag, like, hey, something's out of whack on this one, and we better dig into it. These ones look fine, they're good to go for now. So in order to do that, we did a couple things, and we wanted to show you what that looked like. So let's start first with what the customer requirement looked like. And so at a very high level, the company, first of all, we want to stress and point out that these individuals do a very, very good job at making sure that their campaign costs and their source campaigns on their leads are filled in and up to date on a regular basis. This is a very important part of their role. They understand that that's very important information to have tracked properly. So they do a really great job at tracking those campaign costs and making sure it's up to date and accurate. And they also make sure that every lead has a source campaign, whether that's achieved through web forms that are passing that data in when a lead fills out something, or whether they have somebody looking at those leads that are newly created or manually created and making sure that, hey, the source campaign data is in fact filled in. And if it's not, let's go and dig into that and figure out why and make sure that it has a value. So that's really important for this use case, because without that data, we could do a cost per lead, but with inaccurate data in terms of cost or the source campaign or the number of leads, we're actually not going to get an accurate calculation. And of course, what good is a report if the data isn't accurate? So really important first point there. Now, when we put that aside, what we're looking at next is that the marketing team wants to see a cost per lead on the campaign. So they just want to see a quick calculation that shows that amount. And then they also want to see all leads by status, and not so much see them because we've already got the subgrid there. They can filter that as they need to, but they want to see a count so that they're not having to constantly switch the view and see how many people are open or all leads or qualified leads or disqualified leads. And so a couple of roll-up fields can achieve that. And then, as I said, that cost per lead is calculated in a very simplistic manner. Total cost of the campaign divided by all leads from that have that source campaign noted. And that is the math that's going to be used for this. So how did we achieve this? So pretty simple, straightforward approach. You're going to see me do most of this live here as we go through this video, or I guess not live because it's a video, but you'll see what I mean as we go through. We're going to create 4 roll-up fields on the campaign for leads by status. So all leads, open leads, qualified leads, and disqualified leads. And then we're going to create a calculated field to perform that total cost of campaign divided by the all leads from source campaign roll up. And so that will be a currency based field that will then give us a currency value to show us the cost per lead. So let's dive in and look at how we can accomplish this. So first of all, we've created a solution. So we've got our solution called marketing cost per lead, and we've done that just to keep it segmented. So we've got just the components we need added in here. We've put the campaign. I've put the campaign form because I obviously need to put these fields on a form. I've put a couple views so that I can show you where we might put these fields, and that gives us everything we need for the purposes of this. Everything else we're going to do is actually going to be newly created, so we're going to create it inside of this solution. Go ahead and open the campaign table. And from here, it's going to load all the different areas of components. The first one will be columns. And we're going to go ahead and create our 4 roll-up fields and then our 1 calculated field. So go ahead and click Add Column. This is going to be the all leads. And we're going to go ahead and make this a whole number because we're going to count this up. I don't know why that came up. So we say whole number, and we're going to add a roll up. Now, an interesting thing is going to happen here, and I think at the time of shooting this video, this is just a small glitch that's happening. When I click roll up, it's going to give me this little warning saying, hey, you have to save the column first, and then we can save that to the table, and then we can create the roll up. It's kind of a clunky process, a little bit strange that it happens that way. I've only noticed this recently, so I think it's just a small bump in the road, if you will, and I'm sure that that'll get rectified shortly. And so here's our field. It's populated. I'm going to open it up, and I can open the roll-up data. So here's our roll-up information on our form. I'm just going to move this up a little bit. And so we've got our all leads is the name of our roll-up field. So we want to add a related entity. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on that and say, in here we've got our whole list of them. I'm going to scroll down and find the leads. If I knew my alphabet, that would help. Here we go, lead source campaign. So that's the source campaign on the lead field is what's tying this to the campaign. And so we're going to go ahead and say yes or check mark to that. Well, we can put filters in. Now you can see that these are optional. And in this specific one, we don't actually want to put any filters. We want all the leads that are related to the campaign that we're looking at. And so that's automatically going to happen. We don't have to put anything on here. When we get into our open leads and qualified leads, we would add conditions to look at the status of the lead and pick the corresponding status for the roll-up that we're building at that time. Now we're going to add our aggregation. So now what are we going to do here? We simply want to count. So I'm going to open this window up a little bit. I'm going to come down here to count, and it's automatically going to turn to lead because that's all it's going to do. It's going to count the number of leads that meet the filters applied. In this case, there are none. It's going to be all the leads regardless of their status, and it's going to put them in there. And that's exactly what we want for the purposes of our calculated field we're going to create in a few minutes. Go ahead and save and close that. And now we've got that field ready to roll. I'm going to go ahead and create, and through the magic of video, we're going to create these, and I will be back in a moment. And here we are. We've got our 4 fields created, 4 different roll-up fields, each with the relevant criteria for each one, and those are going to show on the form in a minute. I'm going to show you how we add those to the form. And so now we want to create our calculated field. And so our calculated field is going to be the total cost of the campaign divided by this all leads roll-up number. And so that is going to be another new field. So we're going to go ahead and call this cost per lead. Now this one we want to create as, as a currency field. So we're going to come down here to currency. And we want that because we want it to show as a dollar figure, because when we're looking at it at a glance, we want the visual reminder that yes, in fact, this is how much money it is per lead. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to click calculation. And again, we're going to get this little funny bump in the road here where it's going to save that record. And then we have to reopen the record to append the details of the calculation. So go ahead and click cost per lead again. Now it says open calculation because it's a calculated field, not a roll-up field. So go ahead and open that up. Same little style window is going to open up. It looks a little bit different. So you'll notice a slight difference in the way this form is structured. So now we have different options here. We have the condition. So in this case, you may not want to put a condition here. It kind of depends what you want to roll up and what you're working on. In this scenario, we only want this roll up to happen when there's a value in the total cost of campaign field. And that's just so that if we create a brand new campaign, there's not a bunch of calculations. If we have leads that are tied to that campaign, but we haven't put our costs against it yet, it's not going to show a strange or negative number. We're going to go ahead and have it create only when there's a value in that one field. So we're going to add a condition, and that happens to be on the current entity. So this is campaign, so we're going to leave that. Field, we're going to go ahead, and this is actually called the total cost. So it's down toward the bottom. It's the total cost of campaign. I want to point this out to you really quickly. Total cost of campaign activities. I've seen people pick that by accident. I've done it myself and grab that in a hurry and say, okay, that's what I want to do. And that's actually not the right field, right? That is the total cost of the campaign activities, which are essentially activities on the campaign, which carry a cost. And this field rolls those up, just like we're creating in our previous fields, a roll up of all of the total cost of all those activities. Now, on a campaign, you actually have the total cost of campaign activities, that field we just talked about, in addition to the miscellaneous cost. On the form, it's actually called MISC, M-I-S-C period cost. And so that's the miscellaneous costs of the campaign. Those two items combined are calculated to generate the total cost of campaign. So when you're creating this, it's really important that you use, if you're using this exact scenario, you want to use the total cost of campaign, because if you're only using the activities and you do in fact have value in your miscellaneous costs, your calculated field is actually going to give you inaccurate information, which would not be good. So we want to go ahead, total cost of campaign. And in this case, we just want it to have data. That's all. So we want to say contains data, go ahead and put the check mark there. And so we've now appended our condition, and now we want to tell it what the action is. So we're going to go ahead, we know that field is called total cost of campaign. So you'll see same two fields showing up here. We've got total cost of the campaign right here, total cost of campaign, and total cost of campaign activities. Again, we're going to use this first one here, total cost of campaign, divided by, and now we're going to pull our all leads field. So here's our whole number, all leads roll up field that we just created. I'm going to go ahead and pick that. I'm going to push the check mark, and you now see the action says set the cost per lead field that we're creating to this field divided by this field. Save and close that. And here we are, it's going to refresh. So we now have all of our fields created. So that's great. We just want to put them on the form. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate to forms, put the campaign, open it up. And so here you'll see a pretty standard campaign. This is actually a demo environment that you're looking at. So pretty out of the box configuration that you're looking at right here. It's going to open up in a second, and it's going to give us the general layout. And on the right hand side, you're going to notice we already have a subgrid out of the box that totals up all the leads that are associated with this campaign. We're actually going to leverage that section on the form to put those roll up fields. So you see the section here, now that the form is loaded, we've got our leads subgrid already in place. So we're just going to embed these fields right over here. So we're going to put them in order. We're going to start with the all leads field. I'm just going to drag and drop that into that section. So you see we now have our calculated field. You can tell with a little calculator. And we're going to go ahead and add the rest of them. So we're also going to add in disqualified leads. I'm just going to drag them as I see them, and then we'll put them in order. So qualified leads and open leads. So we got all, open, qualified, disqualified. So again, this idea here is that they don't necessarily need to look at the subgrid and reorder that or structure it so in a way that shows everybody they need. Instead, what they can do is just look at the counts here, and that's all they need at a glance. That was the intent, is to be able to pick those up at a glance, and then if they really want to drill into those records, they can use the subgrid. Now, next beyond that, we also have our cost per lead section, or field rather, and we're going to put that in the details, because in the details tab, we actually have a financials section. And you can see here is where we're seeing our activity cost, which is the roll-up field of all the related activities, and our mis cost or miscellaneous cost. So this is where we can put in a figure, a currency figure of any miscellaneous expenses we might have had. Those two fields combine to generate or calculate rather, the total cost. We're going to put our cost per lead field right underneath that, and that will now total, as we've shown you earlier, it's going to total the total cost divided by the all leads roll up field, and that's going to give us that cost per lead calculation that we can look at a glance and see how we're making it. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. We'll go ahead and publish that. All right, our changes are published, so we're going to go into the application now and have a look at how this all looks. Now I'm going to go ahead and refresh this because we have since published some changes, so those won't be in here. Let that refresh. Here we go. And so now I'm going to slide ourselves down to the campaigns. And now, again, I mentioned earlier, there's a demo environment, so we're seeing some sample data, but let's go ahead and pop one of these open. We'll open this charity event, and you'll see, first of all, we've got our leads right here. So these are all of our new roll-up fields that we've added, and we also happen to have our cost per lead field right there. So let's have a look at how these operate. So we have one lead in the system that's already been entered. So when I recalculate this field, we should see a count of 1. So we'll recalculate. We're going to see one open lead because we see that this lead is in fact open. So we're going to go ahead and recalculate. We again should see a total of 1. Qualified leads. Now this is a demo environment. That's the only lead that's been entered in here. So this should see 0 when we recalculate. And the same with disqualified leads. There should be 0 as well. So there we have our 4 that have all been updated, and of course these will update as the system runs through on a periodic basis. Now, how about we look at our cost per lead field? So you can see we have 0 campaign expenses associated with this campaign. There's no activity costs, and again, those would populate through the campaign activities, and we would put a cost on each one of those, and that would roll up. Alternatively, we could just go ahead and put in a miscellaneous cost. So let's go ahead and put $1,000 down here. So now, as you know, we have calculated, added this field rather. It's going to sum the total of these two fields to generate the total cost. That is going to happen when I save the record. So I'll go ahead and save now. That's calculated total cost. And now you can see that our cost per lead has changed as well because we have one lead associated with this, and that cost is $1,000. Therefore, $1,000 divided by one lead is $1,000 per lead. If we were to change this to $750, go ahead and save that. Our calculations update as soon as we save the record. So that's a quick overview. That's essentially what we wanted to show you is how we could build out a very quick and easy tool that allows you to have an at-a-glance look at, hey, how much is this costing us? And again, want to stress the importance of this specific customer that we're working with here, really, really diligent about updating these fields to ensure that they have an accurate total cost. And they're also very, very on top of making sure that all of their leads have a source campaign identified, which then contributes to this roll-up. So without those two things in place, as I mentioned at the top of the video, this data would not be very reliable because we'd be seeing inaccurate results. But because they're very on top of making sure those things are up to date, they've got great processes in place to manage that. Because of that, they can lean quite heavily on this. And of course, we could pull these fields into our views and even into charts or a dashboard so that we could get a quick look at, here's all of our campaigns and their average cost or something along those lines, the cost per lead. And so really cool functionality. We thought we'd share that with you. If you have questions about anything you've seen in this video, or you'd like to engage C5 Insight to talk a little bit about how we could do something like this to help your organization with something, please do not hesitate to reach out. We would be more than happy to chat with you. We really appreciate you taking time to watch this video. Have a great day.